hang on or to hold on to certain notions, then doubts and errors can arise and will arise. They may not, in a rare case, may not arise. In a Nachiketa or a Shvetaketu perhaps, everything is just clear because the mind is so pure that it just understands what the teacher says. Such a person may not require, a rare person may not require Mananam and Nididhyasanam. But in as much as Sate Sadhana Chathushtaya Sampannadikara is a rare entity, most people being what they are, still they have a lot of things to resolve within themselves. Therefore, Mananam, to resolve the various doubts, Nididhyasanam also, to become free from the habitual error, will definitely be required in case of, in this subject matter, which is what we are experiencing, understand. So this is the main difference between Dharma and Brahma. Dharma is something which is in future, something that is beyond the sense perception right now. Even though Brahman is said to be Atindriya Vishaya, Brahman or the self is beyond the sense perception, it does not mean that it is not experienced by us. When we say Dharma is beyond perception, means Dharma is not even experienced by us right now. So that which is Siddha Vishaya, something that is already obtaining and being experienced, and that which is Sadhya Vishaya, that which is yet to be experienced when appropriate conditions will be created. The treatment as well as approach towards learning the Siddha Vishaya and the Sadhya Vishaya, Brahma and Dharma, these approaches are different. And that is what is being brought out here. That even though Vedantins also accept Shruti as Pramanam, as the Karma Kandis or Mimamsakas also accept, but then Vedantins also see the need for personal reasoning in as much as Brahman, what Upanishad deals with is Brahman or Atma, which is something that is experienced by us right now, and therefore that it becomes the subject matter of the discussion, the subsequent discussion. Says Nanu Brahmanah Mananadi Apeksha Nasti Na Yukta Vedarthatvat Dharmavat. Like Dharma, like Karma, which is Vedartha. Actually Veda has two artha, but the Mimamsakas only take Vedartha as one, namely Karma. Amnayasya Kriyarthatvat. Since Amna or the Veda only have Kriya or the Karma as their purport, or that is the subject matter alone that they are dealing with, and that Kriya or Karma alone is called Dharma. Vihita Karma would be called Dharma. Dharma Vedarthatvat. And since for study or understanding the Dharma, you do not require what we call Mananam, meaning an independent reflection. You carry out reflection to understand the purport of the Shruti, but otherwise no other independent reflection is required. And so also we say that since Brahma also is Vedartha, Brahma also is revealed by the Veda, just as Dharma is revealed by Veda. If for Dharma there is no need for independent reflection, we say that for Brahman also there is no need for independent reflection, meaning Mananam. Because both Brahma and Dharma, both of them fall in one category, namely Vedarthatva. That's the Hetu. That Vedarthatvam is there in Dharma, and in Dharma Mananam is not required. Therefore we say Anumanam, wherever Vedarthatvam is there is Mananadi Anapekshatvam, and Brahma also is Vedartham, and therefore there is no apeksha of Manam in Brahma also. It's simple Anumanam. But then, does it mean that you don't require anything to... Yes, we require something to ascertain the purport of the Shruti. Kintu Shrutilinga Vakyadaheva Apekshitaha. Shruti, Linga, Vakya, Prakarana, Sthana, Samakhya. These are the Linga, the Purva Mimamsa. To ascertain the purport of the... He is going to himself describe this, so we will wait for, that discussion to arise. But in short, to ascertain the purport of what a Shruti Vakya says, also we require certain criteria. And those criteria will enable us to understand the Tatparya or the purport of the statement of a Shruti. So that also requires reasoning. That kind of reasoning is required. Tatparya Nishchaya. We have also said for Vedanta, what kind of linga is required? Upakrama, Upasamhara, Abhyasaha, Apurvata, Phalam, Arthavadaha, Upapattihi. These 6 lingas are required for Tatparya Nirnaya in case of Vedanta or all the texts. But in case of karma, over and above that, you require other criteria, which is what they call Shruti and Linga and so Vakya, etc., that we will have a chance to see. That, okay, they are all required, but Mananam or independent reflection is not required. Ityaha naiti. And so this now forms the subject matter of discussion, next discussion, where Bhashyakara points out what is the difference between Brahma and Dharma. Again, every discussion may appear to be technical, alright, but the purpose of discussion, every discussion, is only to reveal the nature of Brahman. The discussion is couched in a technical language because there are technical contentions on the part of other thinkers, but none of these discussions here is taken up merely for the sake of technicalities or to silence some opponents. Each one of the discussions is taken up here in order to learn something. Learn something about Brahma, about the nature of knowledge, about the style of the Shruti. All that will enable us to gain the knowledge. So all the discussions ultimately, we are not interested in proving somebody wrong or silencing somebody. We are all the time interested in learning. However, the opinions of other thinkers become helpful in analyzing our own thinking process and also analyzing the thinking process by which they may have come to those conclusions, and thus gaining clarity within our own self. So, since we are discussing Brahma Sutra and with the Tika, we have to discuss some of the technicalities, alright, but you must always look for those things which are other than technical. Even if some of you do not understand the technicalities, if you are alert and paying attention, you will find enough material here which is directly relevant to what we are pursuing directly, namely the knowledge or our own life and the problems of our life. And so we should not lose sight of that. Otherwise you may conclude that Brahma Sutra means all these technicalities are there, only grammar is there and tarka is there and this is that. No. The grammar and tarka are also to understand the life. We are interested in understanding life, understanding ourselves, understanding the world, understanding the nature of our problems, and we are interested in solving our problems, and mainly solving the problem of pain and suffering and grief. That's the main problem we have. And all of this is relevant only to that. Otherwise, we are not interested in studying theory of relativity. It's wonderful to know that there are black holes and stuff like that. So what? If there is a piece of knowledge that does not directly relate to me, we are not interested in it. Nor is Bhashyakara interested and nor is anybody interested. But then it will require us also to see the relevance of all the discussions in our own life, which we will try to clarify. But then that should be the approach. That whatever is being discussed in Brahma Sutra has a relevance to our life. Had it not been so, it would not have been discussed here. So sometimes we get lost or we can get distracted in too much technicalities, and there is endless. What we are discussing here is only a tip of the iceberg. And so people tell me, Swamiji, how much all you know? Nothing. If you want to see what is knowledge and what is scholarship, you have to listen to many people are there, which is wonderful. But at the same time, we should not get lost in scholarship also. We should always be very clear about what is the purpose of all this. And therefore, no deviation from our purpose. The prayojanam always must be kept in mind, and that is the whole intention here. That in and through these various discussions, which may appear to be technical and sometimes distracting and whatnot, they are not intended to be, and they are not. In and through every discussion, there is only one prayojanam, and that is the knowledge. So may you see that while we are discussing, may you see that also. Otherwise, okay, let this be over now. Let me doze off for 15 minutes now. That is started now. Okay. No, don't do that. If you find yourself dozing off, that's okay. It's understandable. But don't take rest like that. Like Ramayana. That okay, now I know the story, so let that be over. No, everything is relevant. You see, and so have that approach towards this study. Then you'll find everything makes sense and everything is useful. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Vadarayanam Sūtra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Atha Om Atha Om Atha Adyasya Yataha. Three. The last line. Vedanta Vakya Kusumagrasanaarthatvad Sutranam Vedanta Vakyanihi Sutraihi Udahritya Vicharyante Vakyartha Vicharanadhyavasan Nirvittahi Brahmavagatihi Nanumanadi Pramanantar Nirvritta Satsutu Vedanta Vakyeshu Jagato Janmadi Karanavadishu Tadartha Grahanadardhyaya Anumanape Vedanta Vakya Virodhi Pramanam Bhavata Na Nivaryate Shrutyaiva Cha Sahayatvena Tarkasyabhyupetatva Tathahi Shrotavyo Mantavyah Iti Shruti Pandito Medhavi Gandhara Nevopasampadhyeta Evam Evameva Iha Acharyavan Purusho Veda Iti Cha Purusha Buddhi Sahayam Atmano Darshayate. This passage told us that even though Anumanam, inference or reasoning is not Swatantra Pramanam, it's not an independent means of knowledge, meaning that we cannot arrive at Brahman by Anumanam or by reasoning. Nevertheless, reasoning serves an extremely useful purpose in understanding what Upanishad reveals. Meaning that even Shruti also expects that the person, the Jignasu, should be equipped with a reasonable ability to argue reason and be able to understand the reasoning, and therefore also a reasonable knowledge of the fundamental methods of reasoning, and that discipline also should be there. In short, a discipline of logic must be there in the student. Of course, a discipline of Vyakaranam or grammar also must be there, and so these disciplines are required in order to understand Vedanta. And therefore, particularly the discipline of what we call logic or reasoning is necessary. That's the reason why traditionally before studying Vedanta, they will always want you to go through the study of grammar and the study of logic, and all of this study they would want you to go through before they will teach you Vedanta. Here we don't do that because the people who are educated in the universities, so with that we already have a certain basic discipline of reasoning. When you study physics or mathematics or science or economics or whatever, so reasoning is always involved in every branch of knowledge, and therefore that kind of a background is already there. Although the technical background of tarka or nyaya may not be there, basically the ability to reason is there, and that is very much required, because all the time Vedanta analyzes things, analysis is involved, analysis of our own life, which is what is meant by analysis of the statements of Vedanta, and therefore that ability to analyze must be there. Purusha buddhi sahayam atmano darshayati. Shruti herself says that Atmana, for her own self, meaning for understanding Shruti of the Upanishad, Purusha buddhi sahayam, that Purusha buddhi means the buddhi is the reasoning ability of the individual, that also is required for understanding Shruti. So thus is discussed the place of reasoning. Shrotavya, mantavya. That mananam enables us to become free from doubts and vagueness, and thus gain a clarity of knowledge, gain a firm conviction on the meaning of Shravana, what we have heard from the teacher. Alright, now another technical point is brought up again, mainly to show the distinction between Brahma and Dharma. What is known as Siddhavastu, that which is already attained, because we always keep on repeating that here it is pranitya praptasya praptihi, attainment of what is always attained. So freedom of that, the one who is always free. Nitya nivrittasya nivrittihi, nitya praptasya praptihi. Thus we have to distinguish two kinds of pursuits or two kinds of attainments in our life. One is characterized by dharma, which involves pravritti, and another is Brahma, which calls for nivritti. That's the reason why lokesmin vividhanishta, that in our life there is pravritti. Pravritti is an effort to attain something which is unattained, and nivritti is appreciation of what is there. So both these things are required in our life. As we said, there are two kinds of problems centered on anatma or non-self, and the problems centered on self. Problems centered on non-self require pravritti or activity, and that is what is meant by dharma, inasmuch as the actions that we perform should not violate the existing order, should be in keeping with order. Therefore, that action which is in conformity with order is called dharma. And that dharma is taught by Vedas in the form of vidhi and nisheda, do's and don'ts. So that dharma, which is a means for attainment of what has not yet been attained, this we should know. Whereas, what is Brahma? Brahma is Atma, the very self, ever existent, ever shining, and ever attained. Thus, distance between myself and Brahma is one of karma or pravritti, whereas distance between myself and Brahma is one of jnanam or knowledge. What separates me from Brahma is ignorance, and therefore attainment of Brahma calls for knowledge, because the distance is one of ignorance. Whereas what separates me from prosperity and name and fame and heavens and whatever is in fact time, place and conditions. Thus separation or distance with abhyudaya or material prosperity or material happiness is a real distance in terms of time, place and situations or conditions, and therefore that distance can only be filled by what we call pravritti or action. That is called dharma. Whereas distance between myself and Brahman, being one of ignorance, can only be eliminated by knowledge and not by pravritti. So in fact pravritti or activity wherein I seek to attain something, that is whole thing is opposed in spirit to attainment of Brahman. And therefore there pravritti should not be, one should actually become, the cessation of pravritti or activity is required to appreciate what is or what I am. Whereas to attain what I don't have, definitely activity is required. So there should be clarity about it. Okay. So now there are those who are the Purva Mimamsakas who believe that dharma alone is a means for moksha, because they believe that happiness is something that is not attained, happiness is something that can be gained in heavens, etc., and that is separated from me in time and place, and therefore pravritti or karma is definitely required. So according to them, karma or dharma is means for moksha, because according to them, moksha is attainment of what is not attained. Attainment of happiness which is not presently experienced by me, and therefore attainment of such a happiness is dharma. It means for that is dharma. So they don't accept this Brahmajnanam at all. Because if I am happy, why don't I feel happy? Simple question. How do you say that I am free? If I am free, how can I feel the bondage? How do you say that I am complete? Why do I feel incompleteness? It is our experience also that whenever we gain something which is desirable, then we feel happy. Whenever I meet someone whom I like, I am happy. Whenever I get something that I don't have, which I desire, I am happy. This is our experience of the points that happiness comes when I get something that I like. And therefore, happiness, which is what they call niratisha, meaning unsurpassable happiness, which is called swarga, has to be attained by effort, and therefore, dharma or karma alone is means. This is their contention. And this contention will be brought up again and again and again all along. Although that contention is not really the subject matter here, but we should understand the difference between dharma and Brahma. And therefore, the question is that dharma also is that which is revealed by the Vedas, and Brahma also is that which is revealed by the Vedas, and therefore the method of knowing Brahma and Dharma must be similar, because Vedas were the same style. Vedas is one textbook, and therefore whatever the Vedas reveal has to be understood in the same manner. So Brahma also is that which is revealed by the Vedas, and Dharma also is revealed by the Vedas. Then the method of analysis that we employ to understand Dharma should also be the method of analysis that we employ to understand Brahma. And whatever is not required for Dharma should also not be required for Brahma. This is the contention. Whether somebody argues this or not, I do not know. But for us it is necessary to understand the difference between the method of knowing Dharma and method of knowing Brahma, so that we can understand the place of mananam or place of reasoning, the human reasoning also. And for that, this thing is brought for discussion. And by the way, we also learn how the Shruti Vakyas are analyzed by the Mimamsakas. Thus on the page 107, Ratnaprabha said, Nanu Brahmanaha Mananadi Apeksha Na Yukta Vedarthatvad Dharmavat. This is the Anumanam or the inference presented by them. Brahmanaha Mananadi Apeksha Na Yukta. That knowledge of Brahman doesn't call for Mananam, meaning independent reasoning. Yes, reasoning which is involved in Shruti is fine, but Purush Buddhi Sahayam, an independent reasoning also is required. There is a reasoning that is involved in the Shruti itself. Plus there is what we call independent reasoning. So by Mananam we mean independent reasoning which is not opposed to the spirit of the Shruti. So when we study Upanishad, of course reasoning has to be required, grammar has to be required in order to understand the meaning of the sentences. And what the sentence seeks to convey, that reasoning is required. But then, when we talk of Mananam, we talk of independent reasoning, based on our own experiences and based on doubts, etc., which are created in our own mind. For that, a reasoning independent is required. And the contention here is whether Mananam or independent reasoning is required. They say you don't require because, like Dharma says here, Brahmanaha Mananadi Apeksha Na Yukta, that for Brahmajnanam it is not proper that we should require Mananam or independent reasoning. Vedarthatvad, because Brahma also is Vedartha, meaning that which is revealed by the Vedas. Dharmavat, illustration Drishtanta is Dharmavat, like Dharma also is revealed by the Vedas, and it doesn't require, it requires reasoning to understand the Shruti statement, but not independent reasoning. In fact, independent reasoning has no scope there. That's what will be brought up there. But anyway, they say that you do not require independent reasoning for Brahmajnanam, meaning Shruti is the pramanam or capable of making you know Brahman without the need for your independent reasoning. This is the idea there. So they want to say that Shruti doesn't require anything. It is independent pramanam. That alone is called pramanam, which is independent. eyes are pramanam, they don't require the help of reasoning to determine whether this is a green color or blue color. The eyes reveal the color blue or green, whatever it is. Do you require reasoning to determine what it is? You don't. That alone is called pramanam, which doesn't require reasoning. In fact, reasoning will completely threaten or completely confuse you. No, I don't think this is green. This has to be red. Suppose you reason out that way. What verification do you have to confirm this? You don't. So that alone is called pramanam, which is independent in itself. Shruti is a pramanam to reveal Brahman. So why should there be need for an independent reasoning? This is the question. Kintu Shruti-linga vakyadaheva apekshitaha. Then for analysis of the statements of Vedas, they have certain criteria to determine what is it that a particular statement seeks to convey, or what is the relationship between two different things, for that there are certain criteria arrived at by the Mimamsakas, which is what is meant by Shruti. Shruti here doesn't mean Veda. Shruti here, that will explain, Nirapeksha Shabda. Shruti here only means grammar actually, meaning the grammatical relationship. So, what is Dadna Juhoti? Dadhi means curd. Dadna Juhoti. He offers curd as for oblation. So here, this Dadna is a third case, instrumental case, and therefore, by Dadhi, he offers. So Dadhi becomes a material of offering. This is what that particular statement reveals. And that is understood as the meaning of the statement without need for any other reference. So when a statement is independently able to reveal its meaning or convey its meaning, then that is called Shruti. So every Vibhakti or every Karaka reveals itself. Because every Vibhakti has a certain significance. The accusative is in sense of karma, the instrumental is in sense of third is in sense of instrument, etc. So that kind of a thing is called Shruti. Linga, certain evidences, will discuss that. Vakya, so these are the certain 6 criteria are there. Shruti, Linga, Vakya, Prakarana, Sthana and Samakhya. These 6 are different from those other 6, Upakrama, Upasamhara. And then Abhyasa, Purvata, Phalam, Arthavada, Upapatti. Those 6 are different from this 6. So those 6 are for determining Tatparya of a particular section of a topic. These 6 are for determining the Tatparya of a particular sentence, Anyway, it is not very significant here, but Shrutyadaya means people will believe Veda, etc. No, Shruti here doesn't mean Vedas. So, kintu Shruti-linga vakyadaheva apekshitaha iti. This is what the Purupakshi says, ataha aha na iti. And so in reply to that, Bhashyakara says, on the page 107, na dharma jignasayam iva shrutyada eva pramanam brahma jignasayam किंतु श्रुत्यादयः अनुभवादयश्च यथा संभवम् इह प्रमाणम् अनुभव अवसानत्वात् भूतवस्तु विषयत्वाच्च ब्रह्मज्ञानस्य न dharma jignasayam eva, like in dharma jignasa, meaning just as an inquiry upon dharma, na shrutyadaya eva pramanam brahma jignasayam. In inquiry or deliberation upon Brahman, we should not insist that merely Shruti, Linga, Vakya, etc. alone are the pramanam, just as they are in dharma jignasa or dharma vichara, but mananam also is the pramanam, sahayam, with when it comes to analysis of Brahman. So not only they are only praman, kintu shrutyadaya anubhavadayascha yathasambhavam iha pramanam. Not only shrutyadaya meaning shruti, linga, vakya, etc. Not only they are the pramanam, but anubhavadayascha. Anubhava means direct or immediate experience. Anu means paschat bhavati, that which happens after something else has happened. So according to Vedantins, that which happens after listening to the scriptures, So Shravanad Anu Bhavati, you might interpret that way. So So Shrutyacharya Upadeshat Anubhavati. So that which happens as a result of Upadesha or unfoldment by the teacher with the help of Shruti, that which happens is called Anubhava. Anubhava here means the direct perception or aparoksha jnanam. What they call Sakshatkara. That Sakshatkara or aparoksha jnanam or the immediate knowledge also is Pramana. This is also a valid means of knowledge because then alone you know whether Brahma Jnanam is there or not. So Shrutyadaya, Anubhavadayascha, Anubhava etc. So which also includes Mananam and Nididhyasanam, they also become Pramanam with reference to Brahma Jignasa. Why is it so? Anubhava avasanatvat Brahma Jnanasya. There is a basic difference between Dharma Jnanam and Brahma Jnanam. Dharma Jnana means knowledge of heavens, or knowledge of a ritual, or knowledge of some Vidhi and Nisheda. That knowledge always remains Paroksha Jnanam, or always remains an indirect knowledge because Swarga can never become an object of a perception, or Punya Papa also can never become object of a perception, or the previous birth and the next birth and rebirth etc. can never become object of a perception. And so, whether there is even an order in the universe or not, all of these can never really become the object of perception. They always remain objects of Shraddha or faith. So understand, Dharma it involves faith. But Brahma Jnanam, knowledge of Brahman, does not involve faith. It involves a direct verification by myself. And therefore, Brahma Jnana must be pursued until there is a direct verification by me. Avagati Paryantam Jnanam. When they discuss the word Jignasa, Jnatam Ichcha Jignasa, desire to know is Brahman. Desire to know should be pursued up to what point? Avagati Paryantam. Until that desire to know Brahman culminates into my direct knowledge. Until then, that Brahma Jignasa or deliberation on Brahman must be pursued until that point. Meaning Brahman is that which can be directly or immediately known, whereas Dharma is there which can never be immediately known. So Dharma is Nitya Paroksha and Brahma is what? Nitya Paroksham. This is the main difference. That Brahma is Nitya Paroksham, it is my very self. And therefore, it is ever there is always immediacy about Brahman. Whereas there is mediacy or distance between myself and Dharma. And therefore, you can never verify Dharma. You can never verify Swarga. You can never verify next birth. You can never verify Punya and Papa. Never. Until the result comes. Then also you know it only by inference. When you feel happy, then you know that some Punya karma must have been there and that is why the happiness has come. Or when you find yourself undergoing some pain, etc., then you know that some Papa karma must be there in the past because of which this is. No, it's a matter of faith. But we have this faith and therefore we avoid Papa karma and deliberately perform Punya karma because we have faith, if we have faith. Otherwise nobody bothers. Who has seen this? Who knows about next birth? Who says that what I have to do will be experienced in next birth? Who has said this? Where is heavens? Heavens is all here in the mind. There is no heavens. Now who can prove it? And they will always ask this question, Swamiji, this Swarga and Naraka, heavens and hell are always here, isn't it? Are there such places? What can I say? I said, I have no idea. Since the Vedas say that, I imagine there must be regions. Not regions in terms of physical regions, but regions in terms of some awareness, experiences. States of experience must be there, which is called heavens or hell. So we have to also give them reason. Actually, they talk of only region. They describe places. They don't talk of the state of mind and stuff like that. So if you really trust the Shruti, then you have to say, yes, there is heavens. But even we find it very difficult to emphatically say yes, because we know from our own experience of cosmos that to the best of our knowledge as yet, we do not know of any planet or any place where there may be life. But we say there may be life because even scientists are also superstitious. So they talk about flying objects and stuff like that. And so that superstition is always there. But if we say that yes, there is, then they will call us superstitious. Or they will think that we are simply accepting things without logic, etc. So we have to give them also a reply which satisfies them and which satisfies us and whatever. Anyway, idea is that all of this will always remain matters of trust. that somebody is born after departing from this body. How do you know that? What's the proof? There is no evidence. No, there are so many stories where people remember their past birth. Who knows whether they remember past birth or somebody else's birth, I have no idea. We can dismiss in 1 minute any kind of contention because it is all a matter of trust. It's not we ourselves can dismiss, let alone somebody else. Therefore, all this dharma, all of this is a matter of Shraddha. In the beginning, even Brahma also remains a matter of Shraddha because it is not a matter of my experience. But then the Shraddha is that which is pending verification, whereas Dharma is the Shraddha which is pending what? Pending death perhaps, which cannot be verified in this life. So verifiable faith and unverifiable faith, So there are two kinds of faith of Shraddha, verifiable and unverifiable. So Shraddha, the trust that we have in Brahma or in Upanishad is what? Verifiable faith. This is what we call Shraddha. And the Shraddha that we have in Dharma is what? Unverifiable. It is Nitya Paroksha, and therefore until this life I can never verify that. So this is the difference between Dharma and Brahma. Understand that in every religion or in every tradition there is always a belief system. This whole Dharma is a belief system which we accept, and our whole life is based on that. This past birth and new birth and this birth and all this is all belief. And it's all reasonable, and therefore we have no difficulty in accepting it. But still, this punya, papa, all of this is belief. This grace, etc., grace of God and so forth, that all led to Hanuman Chalisa 101 times, and therefore Hanumanji's Krupa will come in. It's all a matter of belief. You can't prove these things. And therefore, all this belief is always in all upasanas, and all worships are done only on faith, in everywhere in the world. But we also have this Brahma Jnana or Brahma Vidya, which is not a matter of belief, it is something that should be verified in fact, and then alone it is knowledge. Anubhav avasanatvat Brahma Jnanasya bhuta vastu vishayatvat. And also, what is the difference between Dharma and Brahma? Bhuta vastu vishayatvat. Dharma is what? Brahma is bhuta vastu. Bhuta means already existing. So Brahma Jnanam pertains to the knowledge of that thing or entity which is already existing, whereas Dharma Jnanam pertains to knowledge of that entity which is not there, which is to be created as a result of performance of karma. So punya is something to be created by a certain action. Heaven is something to be reached by a certain action, and therefore Dharma or the result of Dharma is something which is not presently there, which has to be created. Brahma is that which is presently there. So these are the two main differences. Anubhav avasanatvat bhuta vastu vishayatvat. That Dharma Jnanam does not require that you should actually verify that there is heavens and then perform the ritual. You cannot, and it's not needed also. All you need is the trust in the Shruti that okay, what they say is right, and so based on that faith you perform rituals. And bhuta vastu vishayatvat, Dharma is not bhuta vastu vishaya, it is only Dharma is bhavya, as it was said earlier, something that will occur in future, whereas Brahma is something that the entity that is already existent. Se Ratnaprabha jignasya dharmeva jignasya brahmaniti vyakhyayam. Dharma jignasayam means what? Jignasya dharme. Brahma jignasayam meaning jignasya brahmane iti vyakhyayam. Anubhavas brahma sakshatkarakhya vidvat anubhavaha. Anubhava means what is called Brahma sakshatkara or immediate knowledge that vidwan or the wise people have. Adipadat manana nidhyasanayoho graha anubhavadayascha. There adi means manana, nidhyasana also should be included there. Tatra hetumaha anubhava iti anubhav avasanatvat. Se Ratnaprabha muktyartham brahma jnanasya shabdasya sakshatkar avasanatva apekshanat pratyek bhuta siddha brahma gocharattvena sakshatkar phalakatva sambhavat tadartham manadadi apeksha yukta. Muktyartham, what is it that we are seeking? That also is important. We are seeking mukti or freedom. So muktyartham, in order to gain freedom, brahma jnanasya shabdasya sakshatkar avasanatva apekshanat. Brahma Jnanam is Shabdam. Shabdam is Shabdajanyam. So Brahma Jnanam or the knowledge of Brahman, which is a result of Shabda meaning the Upadesha or the teaching. Sakshatkara avasanatva apekshanat. Since Brahma Jnanam requires, since Brahma is to be known as the very self, and therefore it will bless me when? Only when I know it as myself. Therefore Brahma Asti, that is Brahman, is not going to completely bless me, but Brahma Asmi, I am Brahman, that alone will really the blessing knowledge. And therefore I am blessed or I find myself free only when I know Atma or the self as Brahman. So it is an apeksha. Sakshatkar avasanatva apekshanat brahmajnanasya, that in order that I attain mukti or freedom, that Brahma Jnanam must be that which must become a matter of my direct or immediate knowledge. Which apeksha or expectation is not there in case of dharma. And pratyak bhuta siddha brahma gocharatvena sakshatkar phalagatva sambhavat. Also, not only there is an expectation of sakshatkar or immediate knowledge for Brahman, but that Brahman is sakshatkara yogyam and dharma is na sakshatkara yogya. The dharma is not that which can become an object of direct knowledge, while Brahma is that which possesses a yogyata, which possesses the qualification of becoming the object of my direct or immediate knowledge. Dharma does not have that qualification that it can become the object of my immediate knowledge, whereas Brahma has that qualification because it is the very self. And therefore, sakshatkar phalagatva sambhavat tadartham mananade apeksha yukta. And therefore, if Shravanam or Vichara does not lead to sakshatkara, then mananam is definitely required. And if that also does not lead to sakshatkara, then nididhyasanam also is required. Meaning by sakshatkara here we mean the knowledge that is free from doubts and errors. It is no doubt that immediate or aparoksha jnanam must be gained through Shravanam. However, if that knowledge is still accompanied with some obstacles such as vagueness or doubts, then still it is not knowledge freed from obstacles. To free that knowledge from obstacle, mananam would be required. And still if there is another obstacle that we call the habitual error or the hata buddhi, then again nididhyasanam is required. And then knowledge becomes spontaneous knowledge. So what is meant by jnanam is spontaneous knowledge. In spontaneity, these doubts and errors are obstacles. So even if you know something, as long as it doesn't become your own thing, as long as it doesn't become your own nature, until then it does not become spontaneous, then you still have to do meditation. You still have to think and you have to attain a certain frame of mind to be able to dwell upon that, because it doesn't happen immediately or automatically. That shows that obstacles are there. And for removal of all those obstacles, to make the knowledge spontaneous, mananam and nididhyasanam are required. So mananadi means what? Mananam and nididhyasanam apeksha yukta. Only proper that apeksha should be there. Read the Purnanandi in the fourth line. It's interesting. Mananadehe durita rupa pratibandhaka nivardakatvena jnanadvara pramanyam. What does this mananam do? Why do we have doubts? Why do we have these errors? Why do we have vagueness? He says, durita rupa pratibandha. Ultimately, what is pratibandha or obstacle in our life is only durita. Durita meaning some past unbecoming or improper actions that we may have performed is called durita, sin. So that alone becomes, what we did in the past alone becomes an obstacle to us in the present. Whenever we encounter obstacles in the present, understand that it is a product of our own past actions. When I performed the action in the past, I did not know that it was not the proper action. But what I knowingly or unknowingly wound up doing, those improper actions alone result into what we call the obstacles in my life at present, obstacles to happiness or obstacles to knowledge. So not only ajnanam or ignorance is obstacle, but then this this vagueness and doubts and all kinds of problems that we have are also obstacles. Somehow the mind just does not seem to be able to tune up with this. All kinds of reactions come. We listen to Brahma Vidya or we listen to Upanishad, instead of giving us a relief, instead of giving a release, which is what it is meant to. Then as you keep on listening to this, every day some more and more of the notions are eliminated, and therefore every time we feel a sense of release. Instead of that, people react, Instead of feeling release, they in fact feel something else, opposite. They react, and they think it's all useless and so forth, because they expect something to happen from this. And when that the happening does not take place, they just get frustrated. So why is it so? Some durita, some obstacle is there. And what is the obstacle due to? Some durita, meaning some kind of a problems which we have inherited from the past. So we will trace all psychological problems and every problem to durita alone. So durita. All these, the negative effects that have accumulated from the past, advertently or inadvertently, for exhaustion of all those negative effects, I am performing this action. So we always look upon our life and our action as means of elimination of obstacles. Because moksha, whether you consider moksha as swarga, then also it's an obstacle. That I am born in this body and not born in a particular upadhi in heavens. So therefore, what does mananam do? What does shravanam do? Shravanam, of course, is a blessing. But then when you independently give thinking to what you thought, to what you heard or listened to, that also eliminates it also generates its own punya or generates its own adrushta. All of these activities generate adrushta. Shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam and everything, upasana, all of them. So mananam also generates a particular kind of adrushta, which will eliminate the particular kind of durita which create doubts. I imagine that's how they must be meaning, So anyway, mananadehe durita rupa pratibandhaka nivartakattvena. So by way of eliminating the pratibandhaka or obstacle, jnana dvara pramanyam, and thus by way of eliminating obstacles, they become indirect means for generating knowledge or for enabling me to gain the knowledge. And that is how mananam also becomes pramanam, because everything eliminates obstacle. What does shravanam do? Shravana also eliminates obstacle by way of the nature of ajnanam. What does mananam do? Eliminate another obstacle by way of samshaya. What does nididhyasanam do? Eliminate yet another obstacle by way of viparaya. So shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam, all of them only eliminate obstacles. And by that way they become means for knowledge, because jnanam is ever there, and still we have acquired it because there are obstacles. All of these, what we call jnana sadhanani, they become means for elimination of obstacles. Jnana dvara pramanyamiti jnapanartham yatra swatasiddha durita abhavah tatra mananadehe na hetuta. Yatra swatasiddha durita abhavah. There may be rare case where these duritas are not there. Somehow whatever is said right away becomes clear. No doubts, no reactions, no errors, nothing at all. Such a rare case if it is there, then you do not require mananam, you do not require nididhyasanam. So, yatra svatasiddha durita abhavah tatra mananadehe na hetuta. There mananam is not a hetu for jnanam. Iti jnapanartham bhashye cha bhashye yathasambhavam, as required. So, shravanadaya, or what is it? Anubhavadaya. Anubhavam and anubhava, and then mananam nididhyasanam yathasambhavam, as required. Iha pramanam. Usually pramanam is that which should be invariably required. But since there can be a case where mananam nididhyasanam may not be required, therefore it is said yathasambhavam, as required. Then this Purnani explains muktyartham, that statement. It says brahmajnanasya aparoksha rupa sakshatkaratvenaiva ajnana nivartakatvat sakshatkara avasanatvapeksha uchita iti bhavah. It says brahmajnanam aparoksha rupa sakshatkaratvenaiva ajnana nivartakatvat. See, ignorance pertaining to dharma can be eliminated by paroksha jnanam, but ignorance pertaining to Brahma can be eliminated only by aparoksha jnanam. Because ignorance of Brahman is aparoksha. And therefore, the aparoksha jnanam alone can eliminate that ignorance. Whereas ignorance of dharma doesn't require aparoksha jnanam, paroksha jnanam is sufficient there. So this is important, that for knowledge of dharma, paroksha jnanam is sufficient, whereas for knowledge of Brahman, aparoksha jnanam is required, because Brahman is aparoksha vishaya. Dharma is what? Paroksha vishaya, and therefore paroksha jnanam is sufficient. Brahma is aparoksha vishaya, and therefore aparoksha jnanam is required, and therefore paroksha jnanam of Brahman will not eliminate the obstacle in terms of ignorance. So Brahma jnanasya aparoksha rupa sakshatkaratvenaiva ajnanavartakatvat. Since Brahma jnanam, by way of being aparoksha sakshatkara alone, can eliminate the ajnanam, sakshatkara avasanatva apeksha uchita, and therefore it is only proper that the knowledge must culminate into immediate perception or aparoksha jnanam. Therefore it is said, Bhashyakara said, Anubhav avasanatvat, first hetu. Second Bhashyakara said, Bhuta vastu vishayatvat, which was explained by Purana Ratna Prabha as Pratyek Bhuta Siddha Brahma Gocharatvena. Says in the third line, Dharmasya Sadhyatvena Anapekshita Anubhavatvat Nitya Parokshatvena Aparoksha Ayogyatvat Chaini Bhavaha. So these are the two reasons here. Dharmasya Sadhyatvena, since dharma is sadhya or something to be attained, not siddha. Brahma is siddha vishaya, dharma is sadhya vishaya. Dharmasya sadhyatvena, since dharma is that, like swarga is that which is to be attained. Anapekshita anubhavatvat, you do not have an apeksha or need for anubhava in order to perform the ritual. For performing ritual as a means of swarga, you don't have to see swarga. All you have to do is to know that swarga is asti. Swarga, so swargam asti is enough. But then it is not necessary for you to directly perceive that. It is only enough for you to know indirectly or parokshada that swarga is. That knowledge is enough to prompt you to perform the ritual. So number one, there is no need for paroksha jnanam. And secondly, there is no possibility of paroksha jnanam. So for performing rituals to attain dharma or swarga, there is no need for paroksha jnanam. And secondly, dharma being nitya paroksha, there is no possibility of paroksha jnanam. So anapekshita anubhavatvat, since anubhava is not required, nitya parokshatvena aparoksha ayogyatvacha, and since Brahma or dharma is always nitya paroksha, and therefore anubhava ayogya, it's not anubhava ayogya, not aparoksha anubhava yogya, if yogyata is not there. And therefore, this is a distinct difference between Brahma jnanam and Dharma jnanam. Says Ratnaprabha, Dharme tu nitya parokshe sadhye sakshatkarasya anapekshitatvat asambhavatcha. Dharma which is nitya paroksha, which is sadhya, two other hetu, nitya parokshatvam and sadhyatvam. It is always a paroksha and something to be attained. Therefore, sakshatkarasya anapekshitatvat asambhavatcha. Nitya parokshat sakshatkara asambhava, and sadhyatvat sakshatkarasya anapeksha. Since dharma is sadhya to be attained, therefore sakshatkara is not required for performing ritual, and since dharma is nitya paroksha, sakshatkara is not possible. So these are the two hetus, nitya parokshatvat and sadhyatvat, which results into sakshatkara asambhavat, sakshatkara anapekshatvat. Shrutya nirnaya matram anushthanaya apekshitam. For dharma anusthana, meaning for performance of ritual, which can lead you to the attainment of a certain desire, and all that it requires nirnaya. So you just have to understand what the Shruti says. Not necessarily visualize what the Shruti says, but just understand what the Shruti says, and that understanding can be gained by Shruti Linga Vakya, those criteria, and therefore those are enough for determining the meaning of the Shruti. But further, Mananam and Nididhyasanam is not required to make it Aparoksha Jnanam, because he cannot be made Aparoksha Jnanam. Na mananadaya. For dharma, manana etc. Meaning manana nidhyasanam are not required. Anupayoga, because there was no use there was no application. Okay. Then Ratna Prabhakara proceeds to explain what Shrutyadaya. Nirapeksha Shabdaha Shrutihi. As we said, Dadna Juhoti, that means that which does not require the support of any other statement to reveal its meaning or for us to understand what it means. Okay, one offers the dadhi. Vrihi navahanti, one pounds the rice. In that case, it is very clear that vrihi or the rice is the object of pounding. So vrihin is an accusative case, and therefore avahanti being the kriyapada or the verb, that the rice there is the object of the verb, which is very clear. So the nirnaya as to what that statement means can be attained merely by that statement, and therefore you don't need any other thing. Then shabdasya artha prakashana samarthyam lingam. Barhir deva sadanam dami. Standard examples are given, So there is a mantra. Barhir deva sadanam dami. Dami means chinadmi. Hey Barhi, this kusha grasa is addressed, So this kusha grasa is the grass, is addressed here. That I am cutting you, this grass is being told. So, hey Barhi, O Devata in the form of Barhi or kusha grass, I am cutting you. Deva sadanam there means the asanam. So for the purpose of Devata, the seat for the Devata, I am cutting you. So while in performance of rituals, you to offer asanas for different Devatas. Like while studying or reading Ramacharitmanas, you always reserve an asana for Hanumanji. So we believe that he comes and sits there and listens to the Ramakatha. And similarly also in the performance of various rituals, you invoke different Devatas to whom you are going to offer oblations. So it is believed that when you utter a mantra, that mantra itself has a capability of invoking the Devata. Devata is mantra swarupa, and therefore Devata is right present when you invoke him. So you offer him asana, darbha. So you place a darbha, as asana for this Devata. So that darbha becomes what? Deva sadanam. Sadanam there means there which you sit. So Deva sadanam means the asana for Devata. So for the sake of asana for Devata, I am cutting you. So here it is not said when this mantra should be chanted is not clear, and therefore they say that here there is a linga or there is a chinha or the evidence here that Deva sadanam this is cut for the asana of the Devatas, and therefore this mantra should be chanted while cutting the darbha or cutting the kusha grass when that kusha is required for Devata asanam. So this is how, anyway, as I said, they are not very relevant at this point, but this is that's the way Mimamsakas have done a tremendous analysis of all the Veda Vakyas to understand what is the significance or tatparya or nirnaya, what is the meaning of what exactly every Vakya seeks to convey. Okay, then what do we have? Padam yogya itara pada akanksham vakyam. Then there is a Vakya. This third is Vakya. Agnishtome pravranokti. When you perform Agnishtoma karma, then there is a pravargya ritual. So even though Agnishtoma karma does not directly say, but there is a Vakya or a statement that he performs pravargya ritual while performing Agnishtoma karma. Even though pravargya, that description is found elsewhere, but that pravargya which is described in a different place becomes an anga of Agnishtoma karma, and thus that anga angi jnanam you gain by this Vakya. So there is another way of determining. Anga Vakya sapeksham pradhana vakyam prakaranam. Prakaranam is context. So by the context also you will know whether a given where exactly what becomes an anga and what becomes the pradhanam. Krama pathitanam arthanam krama patitaihi yatha kramam sambandha sthanam. Sthanam means place. Yatha indragnyadeha ishtayah dashakramena patitaha dashamantrasya indragni rochana divah pratyadyaha tatra prathama ishtau prathama mantrasya vinyoga ityadi uhaniyam. Sthanam is sequence. So, for example, here it says that there are 10 different kinds of rituals described, and there are 10 different mantras also described. Therefore, first mantra should be employed in first ritual, second mantra in the second ritual. In order, we say in English. So, same in order. So, the first is associated with the first here, the second is associated with second. This is called sthanam, and that also enables us to know which mantra should be employed where. And sanya samyam samakhya yatha advaryava sanyakana mantranam advaryava sanyake karmani vinyoga iti vivekaha. Sanya is a derivative meaning here. That advaryava pertains to what? Advaryu or advaryava. And so those mantras, advaryava sanyakanam mantranam, those mantras which have the designation of the name advaryava, those mantras should be employed in a ceremony called advaryava, because advaryava is that which pertains to advaryava, and so by the very word reveals itself by the derivation, the relationship between mantras and the ritual. And that's how the main problem here is, which mantra should be employed in which ritual, or what material should be offered in which ritual. All of these has to be determined while actually determining how to perform a certain ritual. In some cases there are direct statements as to what should be done, then you don't require any further analysis. But in many cases the Veda Vakyas are not direct, in which case you have to seek for some evidence. When that also is not clearly there, then you have to seek for another criterion. So Shruti, Linga, Vakya, Prakarana, Sthana and Samakhya, these are 6 criterion. But the first is the most powerful, and as they go further and further, that Samakhya is the least of the powerful ones, and this Shruti is the most powerful. So when there are more than one obtaining in a given place, then you give importance to the previous one. And when they are not obtaining, then you use one of the 6 in order to determine the Tatparya. This is how they determine the Vakya of the Vedas. And all of that is required for Brahmajnana also. But more than that, Mananam Nididhyasanam also is required. This is the idea here. So, now page 108, as Ratnabhara was, Evam Tavat, having said all this Vakya, etc., which is, since Bhashyakara mentions it, we have to also define it here. Evam Tavat, what all it means is this. Brahma na mananadhyapeksham vedarthatvat, because then people get distracted. What is all this stuff, So don't get distracted and don't get, as I said, intimidated by these things. They are not immediately required. But then Shrutyadaya, since Bhashyakara says that, we should know what Shrutyadaya means, Shruti, etc. And Mananadaya, we should know what that means. Therefore they are mentioned here. Evam Tavat, then what it means is, Brahma na mananadi apeksham vedarthatvat dharmavati anumane. That anumana was presented, Brahma na mananadi apeksham, that Brahmajnanam does not require mananam or nididhyasanam. Vedarthatvat, because Brahman also is that which is revealed by the Vedas, dharmavat, like dharma is revealed. And since dharma is the subject matter of Vedas and that does not require mananam nididhyasanam, therefore you do not require mananam nididhyasanam for Brahma also, because Brahma also is that which is revealed by the Vedas. That is okay. This would be so if Brahma and Dharma, both of them were in the same category, but they are not in the same category, and therefore there are certain factors which distinguish Brahma from Dharma, and therefore this Anumanam is not proper, because there are certain problems there. What are they? Sadhyatvena dharmasya anubhava ayogyatvam anapekshita anubhavatvam cha upadhiti yuktam. Upadhi is a very special factor that obtains, which makes the thing what it is. It's called upadhi. In technical language, sadhya vyapyatve sati sadhana vyapyatvam upadhi. Meaning that sadhya is there, but sadhanam is not applicable. We'll give you a simple illustration, which they give, by the way. Is normally vyapti is what? Yatra yatra dhumaha tatra tatra vannihi. Wherever the smoke is, there the fire is. Because smoke cannot be unless fire is. But can you say, yatra yatra vannihi tatra tatra dhumaha? Wherever fire is, there the smoke must be. You cannot say that. Although often we observe smoke where the fire is, but it is not an invariable relation, because when there is a red hot iron ball, for example, or an iron piece, the fire is there, but smoke is not there. So there is no rule that the smoke must be there where the fire is. There is a rule that the fire must be where the smoke is. But there is no rule that smoke must be there where the fire is. But how come I see smoke here? If the rule is not where this fire is, the smoke should be, that rule is not there. And how come I see the smoke here? Ardrandhana sanyoga. The smoke is because there is this moist wood. So where there is moisture in the wood, it is that moisture that gives rise to smoke. And therefore, in case of this particular fire, the smoke is, it is not because there is an inherent attribute of fire that the smoke is, but it is because of an adventitious reason. That moisture is an that's called upadhi. Upadhi is an incidental or adventitious factor which creates a particular situation. So in case of fire, the smoke is created not because of the inherent nature of fire, but smoke is created because of the presence of moisture in the wood. And therefore, we see an association of fire with the smoke, but it cannot be invariable association because smoke is not inherently there in fire. Therefore, this ardrandhana sanyoga or that sanyoga association with the moisture in case of the wood, that becomes the particular factor, adventitious factor, which is responsible for smoke and not fire is responsible for smoke. So what is responsible for smoke we should understand. Fire is not responsible for smoke. That ardrandhana sanyoga, meaning that wet wood is responsible for smoke. If you don't know this, then you will feel that wherever fire is, smoke should be. So we should know what is responsible for what. This is called upadhi. Upadhi means adventitious factor. And similarly also with dharma, there are those two adventitious factors which are not present in Brahma. And what are those two? Sadhyatvena. Since dharma is sadhya, something to be attained as a result of action. Anubhava ayogyatvam, it is always nitya paroksha, and therefore it anubhava ayogyatvam, it doesn't have yogyata of our anubhava. And also anapekshita anubhavatvam cha. Also nitya parokshatvena anubhava ayogyatvam and sadhyatvena anubhava anapekshitatvam. Since it is sadhya, therefore there is no apeksha or need for anubhava. So these are the two factors which are peculiar to dharma and not to Vedartha. So Vedarthatvad is a hetu. Whatever is Vedartha has necessarily these qualities, then Brahma being Vedartha also must satisfy the same criterion as Dharma. But then Sadhyatvam and Nitya Parokshatvam is not a necessary attribute of Vedartha. It is necessary attribute of Dharma. And therefore Vedarthatvad, that hetu is not applicable because it does not apply to Brahma. Vedarthatvat, but that hetu is not adequate because upadhi means these two particular factors are involved with reference to dharma which are not present in Brahma, and therefore Brahma and dharma cannot be compared in every way even though they are Vedartha, and therefore whatever criteria applicable to Brahman need not be there for dharma, and therefore mananadi apeksha yukta. Therefore a need or expectation of mananam nididhyasanam is quite proper even though Brahma is Vedartham because it is not identical to dharma. Upadhi vyatirekat brahmani mananadi apekshatvam cha uktam. Upadhi vyatirekat sadhyatvam and nitya parokshatvam, these two factors not being there, therefore brahmani mananadi apekshatvam cha uktam. That apeksha of mananam is there in Brahman, they are not there in dharma. Says Purnanandiya in the 7th line, Sadhyatva means dharmasya janyatvena. Since dharma is something to be created as a result of performance of rituals, called sadhya. Sakshatkarasya anapekshitatvat asambhavat chairi suoktam hetu dvayam asmin anumane pratyekam upadhi. These two hetus become the upadhi for the anumanam vedarthatvat. पक्ष अतिरिक्ते दृष्टान्त धर्मे साध्य व्यापकत्वम पक्षे ब्रह्मणि साधन अव्यापकत्वम इति विवेक. दिस कॉल्ड उपाधि. साध्य व्यापकत्वे सति साधन अव्यापकत्वम इज उपाधि. In case of dharma, that vyapakata is there for sadhyatvam and nitya parokshitvam. But in case of sadhanam, here sadhana means what? Vedartham, which brings you to Brahma. There the application is not there, therefore this factor is called upadhi. Sadhitam mananadi apekshatum smarayati upadhi vitarekaditi sadhya vyapakah sadhana vyapakah upadhi तथा च उपाधि द्वय से अभाव इत्यर्थः है. ब्रह्मण उपाधि द्वय रहितत्वात् मननादि अपेक्षा युक्ता इति भावः. ओके, दिस इज व्हाट वी डिस्कस्ड. पूर्व पक्षे उक्त अनुमानम स्वसाध्य असाधकमिति दूषणम उक्त्वा, that anumanam that was presented by Purva Pakshi, namely that vedarthatvat brahmani mananadi apeksha nasti vedarthatvat dharmavat, this anumanam we said that there is a dushanam, namely upadhi becomes a dushanam uktva, and therefore that anuman is not swasadhya sadhakam. It does not accomplish the goal or the sadhya that Brahma is anapekshatvam of mananadi. Pratibandhya dushanantarparattvena bhashyam avatarayati. Then somebody else is another dushanam. Tatra iti. Says Ratnaprabha, तत्र यदि वेदार्थत्वमात्रेण ब्रह्मण धर्मेण साम्यं त्वया उच्येत तर्हि कृति साध्यत्वं विधि निषेध विकल्पोत्सर्ग अपवादाश्च ब्रह्मणि धर्मः स्युः इति विपक्षे बाधकमाह. Suppose you insist vedarthatvamatreణ, in as much as Brahma is vedartham, meaning that which is subject matter of Veda, and dharma also is subject matter of Veda, and just because Brahman happens to be subject matter of Veda and therefore you want to equate it with dharma, then you will equate Brahma in every respect of dharma. If you want to equate Brahma with dharma, just because both of them happen to be Vedartha, fine, have it. Then we will find other dushanam. So we told other one fellow that dushanas are upadhi, but still you want to insist, then fine, pratibandhi is what? Alright, have it your way. Suppose, so alright, this uttaram we give them, we seem to agree with him, but then we show a disagreement. Okay, you want to insist that Brahman is Vedartha and Dharma also is Vedartha and therefore they must be equal, then you will have difficulty in sustaining this paksha, because then you have to equate Brahman with Dharma in every aspect and you will not be ready for it. This is the idea there. Tatra yadi vedarthatvamatreణ brahmana dharmeణ samyam tvaya uchcheda. So if you want to insist that Brahma and Dharma are equal in same category because both of them are Vedartha, is this what you want to say? Alright. In Gujarati, Tara Mama Sak, alright. You have company. We agree with you. But then, these are the difficulties. What is it? Tarhi Kruti Sadhyatvam. Kruti Sadhyatvam means what? Dharma is Kruti Sadhya, meaning that which is accomplished as a result of karma. Then Brahma also will have to fall in the category of that which is attained by karma. विधि निषेध विकल्प उत्सर्ग अपवादाश्च ब्रह्मणि धर्मवत् स्युः. Then in dharma, all of this vidhi, nishedha, vikalpa, utsarga, apavada, all of these factors are applicable to dharma, which all of them will have to be accepted for Brahma also. If all is acceptable to you, fine. Iti vipakshe bahadakamaha, and therefore, if you do not follow our paksha, then bahadakam, these other problems or difficulties are there. This is what the Siddhanti says, and this is how Bhashyakara says. Purusha iti. Alright, so where is this Purusha adhinatva? Says Bhashyakara on the last page, 107. कर्तव्ये हि विषये नानुभवापेक्षा अस्ति इति श्रुत्यादीनामेव प्रामाण्यं स्यात्. This much we should have read earlier because the sentence is complete there. कर्तव्ये हि विषये, since dharma is कर्तव्य विषय और साध्य विषय और कृतिजन्य, Anubhava apeksha nasti. So in dharma there is no apeksha or need for anubhava. Iti, therefore, shrutyadinam eva pramanyam sat. And therefore, shruti and linga etc. alone have the pramanyam and mananadi apeksha nasti. The next sentence, we continue further. Purushadhinatmalavatvacha kartavyasya Purusha adhina atmalavatvacha kartavyasya. Kartavya, that which is to be done, has Purusha adhinata. Atmalava is what? One's own attainment or one's own creation. That kartavya, the dharma, will be created when it has Purusha adhinatvam. So creation of dharma or creation of punya or creation of factor like that calls for an effort on the part of Purusha, on the part of a person. Calls for a sankalpa or a resolve on the part of the person. Because it is of the nature of karma. So here now Bhashyakara points out, they are all very famous statements. All of these you have heard in the past a number of times, but the source is here. So what all we have been saying in the past, some accomplishment of the already accomplished and stuff like all of that ultimately comes from here. And so Bhashyakara says, Purushadhinatmalavatvacha kartavyasya. Says Ratnaprabha on the page 109, Purusha krutyadhina atmalabha. Purusha means Purusha kriti. When we say that Atmalabha means utpattihi yasya tad bhavacha dharme. So Atmalabha is what? Dharma labha, meaning the attainment of dharma is Purusha kruti adhina. The attainment of the dharma is dependent upon the action performed by the Purusha. Just by knowing that there is Swarga, you cannot attain Swarga. You must do what is necessary to attain Swarga. But by knowing that I am Brahma, I am Brahman, you don't have to do anything there because it is siddha vishaya. So this is Purusha krutyadhina atmalabha utpatti. Atmalabha means utpatti yasya tad bhavacha. Tad bhava means atmalabhatvacha. Dharme shrutyadinameva pramanyamit anvaya. So this is another reason that in dharma, shruti etc. alone have pramanyam and not mananadi. Then dharmasya sadhyatvam laukika karma drishtantena sphutayate. How dharma is sadhya, meaning is something to be attained as a result of an action. Bhashyakara laukika drishtantena sphutayate. Bhashyakara clarifies that to show the distinction between the nature of dharma and Brahma, that distinction is shown by Bhashyakara with laukika drishtanta, by the common day-to-day experience here. Says Bhashya there, Kartum akartum anyatha kartum shakyam laukikam vaidikam cha karma yatha ashvena gacchati padbhyam anyatha nava gacchati iti. So kartum akartum anyatha kartum shakyam laukikam vaidikam cha karma. So any laukika karma such as going someplace, or vaidikam karma such as performing a certain ritual, all of these depend upon the free will of the person. So where is the application of free will and where the application of free will is not, this is what is being explained here. With reference to karma or an effort, there is an application of free will. With reference to knowledge, the application of free will is not. So kartum shakyam, one may do something. Akartum shakyam, one may choose not to do. Anyatha akartum shakyam, one may do it in a manner different from what is told, So come here, walk, don't run, we say, but still the person may run. So walk, don't run. These are the kind of instructions given there, Because when sometimes people run at the bus terminals and things like that and fall down and all kinds, so they walk, don't run. Fellows, when they go, even in America also. I remember in New York, moment, the fellows are traveling in a subway train for 45 minutes. But no sooner the train comes to the station, that's all, they run for their life, For what, I don't know. Then they go to a bus stop and then they wait for another 20 minutes. But still, from the train to the bus, they will run for whatever reason, that's all. So this is the nature of people, that they always want to rush. So they said, run, walk, don't run. Because they're climbing steps of the ladders and things like that, they fall, slip and things. But even then the person may run, even if you may ask him to walk. Why? Because anyatha kartum shakyam. Up to his free will whether to run or walk. You can instruct him at the most. At the most you can perhaps restrain, if you are a police officer or whatever, you can restrain that fellow. But generally speaking, when you give an instruction, still it is left to the free will of the person to do it, not do it, or do it as you like, And generally we find an expression of this freedom all along. In fact, this freedom is always expressed in everywhere, at every moment. Kartum shakyam, anyatha va kartum shakyam, akartum shakyam. I will do it, I will not do it. Why should I do it? Why should I do it this way only? Who are you to tell me? And so on and so forth. Because the free will is always there, And that free will gets expressed here whenever it comes to karma. There cannot be free will when it comes to jnanam or knowledge, So okay. Says Purnanandiya. This is too simple an illustration to explain by Ratna Prabha. The Purnanandiya takes time to even talk about this. Say the second line, page 109. Yatha ashvena iti laukikasya gamana rupa karmanah ashvena gacchati padbhyam means walking, by the way. So when a person has to reach a destination, ashvena gacchati, he may ride a horse. Padbhyam, today he may ride a car. Padbhyam gacchati, or he may walk. Or nava gacchati, he may not go there. So this is the laukika gamana rupa karmanah ashvena gacchati padbhyam vaidi dvayena kartum shakyam. Ashvena gacchati padbhyam gacchati kartum shakyam. That shows that he may do if he wants to do. Anyatha va gacchati iti anena unmattadi sadrushyena va gacchati iti anyatha kartum shakyatum upaditam. Like an unmatta. So he may roll, he may go in different ways. He may jump up and down, he may run, he can do all kinds of things. He can prostrate and go, and he can roll and go, and any way he can go. Unmatta also. So like a madman, he may run hither and thither and somehow reach the destination. So that is called anyatha va kartum shakyam. Nava gacchati iti anena akartum shakyatum upaditam bhavati iti bhava. Nava gacchati, meaning what? So padbhyam nava gacchati, anyatha va is what? Anyatha kartum shakyam. Nava gacchati akartum shakyam. दृष्टान्तस्य लौकिकर्मणः कर्तुं शक्यत्वादि त्रितयम् उपपाद्य कर्तुम् अकर्तुम् अन्यथा वा कर्तुम् त्रितयम्. These threefold things having been shown logically. वैदिक कर्मणः धर्मस्य तत् त्रितयम् उपपादयति तथा यदि. And Bhashyakara shows how even Vaidika karma also has this kind of option as far as the free will of the person is concerned. And says Bhashyakara there, तथा अतिरात्रे षोडशिनं गृह्णाति नातिरात्रे षोडशिनं गृह्णाति उदिते जुहोति अनुदिते जुहोति इति विधिप्रतिषेधाश्च अत्र अर्थवन्तः स्युः. विकल्प उत्सर्ग अपवादाश्च. तथा similarly atiratre shodashinam grunnati. What is atiratra? Atiratra is a kind of a ritual, you see. And Shodashinamakam Somarasapanakhya Graham Vyapar Rupa Grahanana Samskuryat. Shodashinam is a vessel containing Somarasa. So Atiratra also is a ritual involving the sacrifice of Soma. And Shodashin also is a patra or a vessel in which you carry this Somarasa. So therefore, that everything counts, How we do every particular movement in performing a ritual is very important. So how do you bring the Somarasa? If you bring it in a particular patra or a vessel called Shodashi, then it generates a certain apurva and will give you a certain result. If you don't do that and bring it in some other way, then that apurva is not generated. This is how they understand. So, Atiratre Shodashinam Grunnadi. In a ritual called Atiratra, one actually brings Somarasa by this patra or vessel called Shodashi. Na Atiratre Shodashinam Grunnadi, that he performs Atiratra ritual alright, but does not use this Shodashi. This shows what? Kartum Shakyam, Anyatha va Kartum Shakyam. Or Akartum Shakyam rather, Akartum Shakyam. Then Udite Juhoti. One performs his yaga, Udite, when this after sunrise, Anudite Juhoti, the same yaga somebody performs before sunrise. This is what? Again, Anyathava Kartum Shakyam. Either you perform a certain ritual after the sunrise, or when the sunrise is, or before the sunrise is. So, Atiratre Shodashanam Grunadi Kartum Shakyam, Na Atiratre Shodashanam Grunadi Akartum Shakyam, Udite Juhodi, Anudite Juhodi, Anyathava Kartum Shakyam, Iti Vidhi Pratishedasya Arthavantasyuhu. This Vidhi and the Pratisheda, all of these become meaningful here in case of Dharma, which is Sadhya. They are not meaningful in case of Brahman, which is Siddhavastu. All these kind of Vakyas you will hear in the Vedantic talks. Udite Juhodi, Anudite Juhodi, all these things will come in reference, while talking about Dharma and showing distinction between Dharma and Brahma. Says Ratnava Tadvad Dharmasya Kartum Akartum Shakyatvam Uktva Anyatha Kartum Shakyatva Udite Juhoti iti. So Kartum Akartum Anyatha va Kartum Shakyam, that is shown. What is Udite Juhoti, Anudite Juhoti? How can a given yaga or a ritual like Agnihotra, somebody performs it when the sun rises and somebody performs it before the sunrise, how do they justify their action? Shakha Bhedena Arthadvayevi Videhe. In one shakha it is said Udite Juhoti, another shakha it is said Anudite Juhoti, and therefore you have a choice then. Either do it this way or that way. Videhe Sattvat Anyatha Kartum Shakyatam Aha. Otherwise, actually this is not permitted in Vedic religion. Now Vedic karma that you can do as you like. If you have a sanction, then alone you can perform as you like. In a particular ritual, there is a sanction. That one branch of the Veda says Udite Juhoti, another branch says Anudite Juhoti. That sanction or the freedom being there, one may perform it before sunrise, one may perform when there is sunrise. Says Ratnaprabha, Dharmasya Sadhyatum Upapadya Tatra Vidhyadi Yogyatamaha. The Dharma is Sadhyam. Sadhya means to be at Kruti Sadhyam. Wherever karma comes, there is a application of free will. Where application of free will is, you will find that application being exercised by way of kartum, akartum, anyatha kartum. That shows expression of free will, and that has its application only when there is kriti sadhyatvam or attainment as a result of karma. So dharmasya, says Ratnavra, sadhyatam upapadya, showing you the reason how dharma is sadhya or something to be attained as a result of karma. Tatra vidhyadi yogyatamaha, that in dharma, because person is a free will, therefore vidhi and nisheda have relevance. Otherwise they have no relevance. So do it this way, he will say, alright, keep the microphone only in a given way and not some other way. So vidhi and nisheda, do it this way, not some other way. Agadi ke aam rakhi, aam ke am na rakhi. Why is microphone here and not there? The water should be this temperature and not some other temperature. These throat lozenges should be only of this particular brand and not some other brand. Vidhi and Nishedha. All of these Arthavantasyuhu, all of them are relevant when it comes to free will of the person. Person can buy any throat lozenges, therefore this and not other. Person can prepare food in any way. Then we say, don't add so much salt or whatever it is. This instruction has to be given. Don't put milk in my tea. Why? Because the fellow may do that. Where free will is involved, then the question of vidhi, instruction, nisheda, prohibition comes. So enjoinment and prohibition are only applicable where there is a free will. If the cook has no free will to cook the manner in which he wants, then there is no vidhi nisheda required. He has to do it only in a certain way, or a thing can be done only in a certain way. Then there is no vidhi and no nisheda. When the freedom is not there, there is no vidhi and no nisheda. You can go upstairs only through the stair. That's all there is. There is no vidhi that you must only go through the stair because that's the only way he can go. There is no way that he can jump or things like that. So when choice is not there, there is no need for vidhi and nisheda. Do not enter without permission because someone can enter without permission. Or beware of dogs, and things like that. This become necessary because people may not be aware of them. But you need not say here that I don't know, don't drink fire or something like that, because nobody will drink fire. And since there is that choice is not there, therefore there is no need to tell a person, don't drink fire. So where free will is involved, then alone the vidhi and nisheda or enjoyments and prohibitions have an application, otherwise not. And where free will is involved, you will find vidhi and nisheda also, invariably. So when you find vidhi and nisheda, you know that because free will is involved. And therefore they have a relevance. Whether we accept Veda's command or authority is a different thing. You may believe, or you may say that Vedas have no business to instruct me, that's a different thing. But otherwise, instructions come because free will is involved. And so we should know this mechanism, that's all. So dharmasya, adharmasya idam upalakshanam. When they say dharma, athato dharma jignasa, athataha adharma jignasa. So in case of vidhi means dharma, nisheda means adharma. Dharma dharmayoho sadhyatam upavadya. Bhashyakara said dharma and adharma both are sadhya. Even for papa you have to do something, otherwise papa cannot come. For punya also you must do something. For papa also you must do something. For getting angry you must do something. For jealousy, for being happy you need not do anything. But for being unhappy you must do something. That shows what is natural. Today of course we find that for being happy we have to do a lot of things. And for being sad I don't have to do anything. So it looks like. But that's not so. Being sad, I have to do things. For being happy, I do not do anything. Only when I stop doing things that I find myself happy. As long as I am doing something, I find myself sad. So understand that when there is sadness, something is happening there. Some build-up is there. Or the past build-up is there which is manifesting in the form of sadness, and therefore, happiness which is supposed to be swata siddham should not require any effort. If you find that effort is required to be happy, that shows that I am already doing something, and to undo